So good morning, everybody, and thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here with you today and to talk about AI and the future of work. My name is Laura Nurski, and I've been involved in the future of work since 2015. First as a data scientist in the financial sector, developing machine learning algorithms for banks, and then as an organization designer, helping organizations design better jobs, better teams, better structures to help them thrive in an increasingly complex and volatile world. In the past couple of years, I've studied the labor market implications of technological change in universities and think tanks, and with a main focus on artificial intelligence. So when economists talk about the impact of technological change on the labor market, they like to refer to this quite famous example of Jim Besson, who showed that in the 1990s, as ATMs got installed, automated teller machines, that's these types of machines that allow you to withdraw money, this didn't actually decrease the number of human bank tellers that were employed in banks. So while it's true that some technologies can completely automate away certain professions, for example, if you think of the lamplighters who lost their job with the advent of electricity, this has not been true for the human bank tellers. Instead, what happened is that as human bank tellers didn't have to help people withdraw money, they took up other kind of tasks in the bank that added actually even more value to the bank. They turned into sort of relationship managers, they gave advice to customers, and they serviced their clients with more complex products and services. And this anecdote of bank tellers is actually exemplary for a trend that has unfolded in the labor market throughout the second half of the 20th century. So researchers have documented this changing task composition in the labor market throughout the past 4 decades of the 20th century, and they showed that the share of routine manual tasks, those are like picking and sorting, for example, and routine cognitive tasks like record keeping and calculation have decreased in the overall amount of tasks at the expense of increasing non-routine work. So non-routine interactive work like persuading, selling, managing people, and also non-routine analytical work like medical diagnoses and legal analysis. And this is partly a composition effect of labor reallocating from routine occupations to non-routine occupations, but also they show that they also see this happening inside occupations, that the share of routine tasks decreased at the expense of non-routine tasks. And what I just presented, economists call it the task model of the labor market, and it's used extensively in labor market research. It conceptualizes jobs as bundles of tasks and people as bundles of knowledge, skills, and abilities. And when people are hired into jobs, they are matched based on the fit between their human knowledge, skills, and abilities and the task requirements of the job. The impact of technology can then be modeled in such a framework as, for example, artificial intelligence gaining some knowledge, skills, or abilities that were previously exclusively human that now allow the automation of certain tasks. And indeed, we do see artificial intelligence quickly acquiring some abilities that surpass humans in a number of areas. The Stanford University publishes their AI index every year, where they keep track of evolutions in a wide range of indicators related to AI. And for example, they track how well algorithms are performing on certain benchmark data sets. And this is one example of such a benchmark, the visual question answering data set. It contains a lot of pictures like this one, pictures of a pizza, and then associated questions like how many slices of pizza are in this picture, is it a vegetarian pizza or not? And across all the pictures in this data set, humans get it right about 80% of the time. So that's not too great. And algorithms have surpassed this baseline already in 2021. The same goes for a reading comprehension data set that has questions like, does the word bored have the same meaning in these two different sentences, which it does not. Humans get it right 90% of the time, and algorithms surpass that as well in 2021. So what researchers have then done is to map the progress that AI is making in these specific benchmarks to abilities that are related to specific occupations based on the ONET database, which has job descriptions for specific occupations and all the abilities that humans should have if they want to perform such a profession. And after this mapping, they came to the conclusion, not very surprisingly, that it's mostly the cognitive work-related abilities that are most exposed to this progress in AI. And this is in contrast to other automating technologies, like, for example, robotization, that is targeting more these physical and psychomotor abilities. Once this mapping is done to work-related abilities, you can aggregate this up to the occupational level, sectoral level, regional level, national level. And what researchers have found, and this is from a paper that is focusing specifically on generative AI. So it's selecting a few of these benchmarks related to language modeling and image generation. They find that high-wage, high-skilled creative professions are most exposed to this generative AI. Now, I want to make 2 points before I move on from this slide. The first of all is that it's quite remarkable in the historical perspective that it's high-wage, high-skilled jobs that are exposed to this technological change. If you think back to the previous wave of computerization, think back to the bank tellers, the office clerks, the factory workers, then it was more middle-skilled routine type of jobs that were most exposed to this computerization. And what we see now with this high-skilled exposure is more reminiscent of the first industrial revolution, when the steam engine and the mechanization of the weaving and spinning professions actually impacted skilled workers. So it's no wonder that we see today that these high-skilled creative professions like authors, actors, scenario writers, that they are opposing this technology almost to the same extent as the Luddites did with the machines, the weaving machines. We actually hear stories of these creative professionals actively trying to ruin certain AI models by feeding it bad examples of scenarios or bad text or bad images in the hopes of saving their profession. But the second point, maybe more importantly, is that exposure to technology does not necessarily mean that these occupations will see less employment. Yes, researchers have found some evidence of productivity increases at the level of individual tasks from Gen AI support. For example, experiments have been done not in actual companies, but in online experiments where coders were asked to code a certain HTTP server, for example, and found that they could do it 55% quicker than without this Gen AI support. The same goes for writing. Big productivity increases at the task level. But even given this productivity increase, it might not mean reduced employment, because as these tasks get cheaper, for example, if web development gets cheaper or app development gets cheaper, we might see an increased demand for these services. So we might all want to build more apps and build more websites, so that even with productivity increases, the demand for this labor might still increase. And in fact, the OECD has released a study in 2021 called What Happened to Jobs at Risk of Automation, where they looked at employment levels and evolutions in jobs that 10 years earlier were labeled at risk of automation. And they found that 10 years after, these jobs or these occupations had actually not seen a decreased level of employment, even though employment grew slower than in the non-exposed occupations. So even within this task model of the labor market, the theoretical outcomes of this exposure to technological change is not clear at the moment. Empirical evidence is a bit too soon right now for AI, although first papers have been coming out that look at the online labor market, so the freelance labor markets, because that's where the first adjustments are going to happen, right? Before firms are going to reallocate their internal labor, they're going to stop outsourcing, right? And in online labor markets, research has found first negative effects on the demand for freelance writers, freelance developers, and freelance image professionals. Now, but before I end my talk, I want to zoom out a little bit and take a step back from this task model and expand a bit our view to set the scene for the upcoming panel. So starting from the existing set of tasks is quite limited because it only considers task automation. And task automation is only a point solution. It means that you apply technology in one task, but you keep everything else the same. You keep the whole system the same, and you keep the whole process the same. And yes, you might have done some productivity increases in one specific task, and you might free up some time for people to take up a bit more of these other tasks. But overall, the total effect on such a job is fairly limited. And this changes when we move from a task model to an organizational model. Because, of course, the tasks, most of you, I guess, are here from business, so you know that the tasks in your organizations are not just random bundles of individual tasks that are unrelated to each other, and some of them can be automated while others cannot. In fact, tasks are part of interdependent processes that lead to a certain shared outcome or shared goal. And likewise, people are not random bundles of individuals. They are part of teams being managed by larger structures. So that is the goal of organization, is to coordinate people executing tasks in processes to achieve a shared goal, a shared outcome. And if we start from there, from the outcome, and we think about how AI can help us achieve such an outcome, we might completely redesign our processes and end up with completely different tasks to distribute among the people in our organization. And that's what we call a system solution. And we know from previous waves of automation that such a system solution is where the true productivity increases lie. For example, if you think about the invention of the electrical engine, replacing a steam engine in a factory with an electrical engine and not changing anything else would be a point solution. And maybe the electrical engine can be a bit more dependent or quicker than the steam engine, but it wouldn't change very much. What happened in this second industrial revolution is that the electrical engine allowed a complete re-layout of the factories, because these electrical engines were smaller, each machine could be driven separately, machines could be rearranged in the factory, and this was the beginning of the assembly lines that led to mass production and huge productivity increases. So that was a system solution, and it took several decades to get from the invention of electricity to completely redesigning factories. And I think that's the exercise that we are in the middle of today. Let me give one example. This is a task list of primary school teachers from a study by the International Labour Organization. They did this for all occupations, so they took their task list and they estimated some sort of automatability potential. In fact, the way they did this, if you want to read the paper, they just asked ChatGPT if it could take this task or not. So, but still, yeah. And so teachers have several tasks, right? They have, for example, preparing lesson plans, instructing children, maintaining discipline in the class, conducting outside activities. And out of all of these tasks, the one that had the highest automatability potential was preparing these lesson plans. So you can think of asking ChatGPT, like, I want to teach biology to 4th grade kids. What should be in there? Make me a 13-week lesson plan and this and that. So yes, if you are a the principal of a school, and you see that your teachers are overworked and they spend their evenings making lesson plans, then you could think about helping them start using ChatGPT to help with these lessons plans. And that would be a point solution, because you would keep the whole system the same except for that. The whole educational process and the system would stay the same. And yes, teachers might gain some time in the evenings. They might have a little bit more time to engage with the kids. That's true, but it's not a disruption of the teaching profession at all. Now, if we start from the outcome, which is we want to get kids to learn stuff, and we think back how AI can help us with that, we might come up with completely new ways of teaching children. And then it's not up to me, but up to teaching professions and the educational sector to come up with these new system solutions. But this new system might not even involve lesson plans anymore. It might not even involve classrooms, who knows? But that doesn't mean we wouldn't need any more teachers, right? We can still imagine teachers taking up a role in a new educational system, engaging with kids in a very different way. So I want to end my talk with a main message, and that is that the future of work is not set in stone at all. In fact, it's ours to design. AI has the potential to support people or to control people. And what happens in the labor market is just a joint result of what happens at the level of companies and at the level of sector, regions, and policies. At the level of companies, it depends on whether or not this technology is used to enhance creativity, to redesign work, to find synergies between humans and technologies. And at the level of policies, it depends on the incentives and supports that governments provide, on the one hand, to companies to transition into these new types of work and jobs, and on the other hand, to workers to help them transition into these new and better jobs. And in that sense, the labor market, you can think of it as kind of the joint scoreboard of all stakeholders in our society. You know, if in the long haul we all lose, if technological and economic developments lead to a social graveyard. But on the other hand, we all win if our workplaces and our workforces adapt to create prosperity, better quality jobs, and a sustainable society. So I hope that today you will be inspired by the upcoming panels and other presentations to join forces and build such a future of work. Thank you.
Parfait, parce que we've got time for questions, so it's really perfect. Nous avons un peu de temps pour les questions, puisque Laura a parfaitement tenu le timing, donc si vous voulez poser des questions, n'hésitez pas. Oui. Je vais trouver les cafés.
Thank you so much. My name is Véronique Bardet, and I would like to ask a question about AI use for students. You gave the example about teachers using AI for getting help in order to organize their work and job. What about the students? Is it a positive aspect of using AI for giving them more knowledge, or is it making them lazy, or will they learn to use it in a positive way? I'm talking about students in higher education, not really, younger students. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so again, I'm not an expert on education, so it would be good if an educational expert would answer that. But my opinion on that is that when the calculator was invented in the 50s, people were saying the same thing, right? Calculators are going to make people lazy. They're not going to be able to make calculations by themselves anymore. And to me, AI is just a tool like that. So I don't think we can imagine a future where we are not using AI in the workplace. So also students have to learn how to use it. So it's a tool, and we have to teach students to make use of it in the best possible way. And I think the possibilities are endless if you have the knowledge of the whole world at the tip of your fingers, as long as you know when to trust the AI and when not, and what to use it for and what not. So it's a matter of learning to use the tools. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. This work?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks a lot, Laura. It was very inspiring. Right, so you said, okay, so First of all, you started with and then you move that in order to make sure that the effect of AI will come, the organization has to adapt. But what about the individuals, right? Because you can also see the individuals as a bundle of tasks, and they might have many tasks, and not one, but a few tasks will be influenced by AI. And how will those, a particular profession or in that particular individual?
So, just to clarify, it's not the individuals that are bundles of tasks. Individuals hold jobs that are bundles of tasks, and indeed, some of these tasks might be exposed, and then we would have to reconfigure those jobs. I don't know if I've seen a lot of research on the rebundling of tasks into new jobs. I have seen actually more on the practitioner side, people coming up with redesign strategies in the age of AI for jobs. And one very good example that I always like to refer to is actually from Singapore. I think they're quite advanced in policies surrounding AI, and they released a report already in 2020. So way before the ChatGPT tsunami, about how to redesign jobs in the age of AI. So they give a methodology that companies can take by hand and go step through step by first categorizing tasks, deciding on the potential for automation, but also contrasting it to the desirability of automation from a job design perspective. So even if you can automate a certain task, if this is actually a task that your employees find very engaging, very motivating, or that your clients really like to have a human touch in, then even though it's technically possible to automate, you might not want to automate it. And after this classification, they show how to redesign or rebundle tasks into new jobs. And then indeed, then the individual comes into play, because an individual might have to take up a new job that contains some tasks that he's familiar with and some that he's not yet. And then it comes down to charting pathways, from old jobs to new jobs, where you see what are the missing skills that people should acquire to transition into these new jobs. And then that's where I focused a lot on how jobs are changing. And I hope maybe in the panel we're going to focus also on the labor supply side, reskilling people. But then also there, it's a joint responsibility of all the stakeholders. Companies can provide specific training to help this transition. Policymakers can provide more general AI literacy trainings, and also individuals can take responsibilities to acquire these skills. Yeah.
Many thanks, Laura, for this presentation, which I really find inspiring and actually setting the scene for the next panel. So I come from the policy perspective, and one issue that now I think it's very much in the thinking of policymakers is really the risks, if you want, associated to the fact that artificial intelligence, or broadly speaking, technological transformation may lead to job losses. So that's really the reason why that there is concern about artificial intelligence. I think that technological progress cannot be stopped. It will go ahead whether we are concerned or not. So I think it needs to be embraced and shaped in a way that basically we make sure that societal and economic outcomes actually remain positive. Now, I think some distributional impacts are inevitable, so it's clear that some people will have some negative impact. And then I think what you just said, that the next step is how to reduce, how to mitigate this negative impact. And the prioritization of reskilling, of upskilling the workforce, I think becomes quite important. Now, with this premise, is that enough? is that enough to mitigate potential negative impacts? There will be some negative impacts. I think this is inevitable, but I don't think this is a sufficient reason to want to stop the process. What else can be done? Maybe thinking also in terms of organizations.
Yes. So. Indeed, I'm not very much a fan of thinking that the deterministic side of technological change is all on the labor demand. So technology is deterministically changing jobs, and all of the adjustments have to be made on the labor supply side. I don't believe that at all. I think that also on the way technology is changing jobs, we actually can have a lot of influence. So while it may be true that some advancements in algorithms might be outside of the scope, but even that is not true. Policy could also influence really the technological development, but the way it's implemented inside organizations, that is not deterministic at all. That's very much in the hand of the organization. And one way to mitigate this potentially detrimental effect on workers, either in the sense of job quality, for example, algorithms being used to monitor workers or to reduce autonomy in the workplace, or any of these other negative impacts on job quality or on job quantity in terms of job losses. I think one way to mitigate this outside of reskilling is to make sure that social dialogue takes place in organizations also when technology is implemented. Because involving workers in the implementation of technology is beneficial for the firm and for the workers, because workers have tacit knowledge about their processes that can improve the way technology is implemented in the organization, but at the same time it allows unions to negotiate better working conditions or better wages. So yeah, that would be my main recommendation, is to strengthen social dialogue when technology or AI is implemented in the workplace.
Thank you. No more questions? Pas plus de questions, mais c'est parfait. Merci beaucoup, Laura.
Thank you. Merci.
Donc les intervenantes et intervenants de la première table ronde.
So speakers from the first roundtable, Véronique Bardet, Skinbrock et Mauro Pelucci.
Bonjour à tous.
Good morning to everyone. As Ron, I will switch back to English.
Everyone, it's really a great pleasure to be here today. So I'm Cinzia Alcidi. I'm a senior fellow at CEPS, Center for European Policy Studies in Brussels. We're a think tank, one of the largest and oldest think tanks in Brussels. We cover all European affairs. The full waterfall of European affairs, from agriculture to artificial intelligence, going through labor market policies, among other things. And I'm really glad to be here today, and for this I really thank Olivier and Pierre-Alex who made possible to organize this event. Indeed, the impact of artificial intelligence on labor markets and on work, I'm looking really at labor markets and work as two different things, is one of the aspects that we are working on at the moment. Indeed, we are a think tank, but we have in-house research capacity, and we do a lot of research on policy-relevant issues, and this is clearly one of those. And while doing this, we pair with other organizations, especially universities, which play, anyway, a key role in understanding new developments. And it's, I think Laura made this quite clear, how and the way artificial intelligence and more broadly technological transformation is impacting the way organization functions and the way the work is organized within businesses, and how this leads to societal and economic impacts is still not well understood. And I speak very often to policymakers, especially European ones, but also national ones. And now I see basically two main questions which may sound completely far away from each other. The first one is companies are facing labor shortages. let's say, labor market shortages, because labor shortages is not exact. And in particular, there is a lot of concern of lack of skills and talents, which actually could meet the needs, the new needs, which are associated with technological transformation, in particular artificial intelligence. And the other concern, which I mentioned in my question just a few minutes ago, is the fear of unemployment, basically because of job losses. So this may sound as a contradiction. So what is the problem? Is a loss of employment or actually shortages? And but both problems, I think, are real, but they illustrate the complexity and the not full understanding of what is going on when it comes to technological transformation, in particular artificial intelligence on labor and on work. So, starting from this long introduction, the idea was really to have a conversation on this and to hear how businesses, how companies are actually integrating such transformation in their organization, and the challenges, the opportunities, and the modality in which this is done. Because I think this is crucial to get a sense of how things are changing. And I think we have an excellent lineup of speakers. I'm really very, very pleased that we managed to get these speakers. I will briefly introduce them, and then I will give them the possibility to share their thoughts and their experience. We have Mauro Pelucchi. He is head of global data science at LIGHTCAST. He will say a bit more later, but LIGHTCAST is a global leader in labor market analytics. They have huge amount of data. They use artificial intelligence to generate analytics, and Mauro can give us some examples and give us a bit of a sense at macro level of what is going on. And then we have Véronique Bardet. She's head of IT in cybersecurity at Pierre Fabre Group. So she will bring us some insights from the experience. And then, last but not least, Romaric Redon is currently the new COO, so Operational Office, of Artificial and Natural Intelligence Toulouse Institute, so ANITI. But he has a long experience in artificial intelligence. He was previously the AI roadmap leader at Airbus. So I think we have a lot of knowledge around this table, and I think it's time to start. So, Mauro, what do you see in the data?
Yes, so thank you, Cinzia, and I need to say also thank you to Laura before to prepare the share. So, like Cinzia presented before, so I am Mauro Pelucchi and I'm coming from LIGHTCAST. What I will present in a couple of slides is the situation that we are observing from our data. Our data are coming from the web because we collect every day in real time online job posting that the organization, the employer, are publishing on the web. And what we do, really what we do since 15 years, since 2010, is to apply machine learning model, so part of artificial intelligence, to try to decode the language of employer in occupation and skill, to try to understand what are the most in-demand skill, the most in-demand occupation. And of course, artificial intelligence is here. So, if we observe the data, we are able to extract artificial intelligence skill from the job posting that the employer published on the web. Not only this year or last year, but it's something that we are observing since 15 years. Of course, the amount of online job posting with at least one artificial intelligence skill are only the 2%, so maximum, okay, the 2%. And of course, we are observing, it's strange, last year, a little decline of the classic artificial intelligence subject, like machine learning, like neural networks, but we have an increase of requests about generative AI. So it seems obvious, but of course it's important to observe. I think a couple of weeks ago, one startup published and released the first full autonomous AI model for AI software engineer, so to replace one software engineer. So it's really important to understand how the organization are using this AI skill. Because, of course, it's an impact about occupation and so on. From a recent study of the World Employment Confederation, there are the 81% of senior executives from the companies that are thinking to reshape their workforce only because they need to adopt artificial intelligence. And if we go in detail about the job titles that are appearing in the web, artificial intelligence is not only something inside the classical digital sector. Of course, we have job titles like AI consultant, AI engineers, because of course they are here. But we are observing an increase of artificial intelligence job titles inside our, let me to say, non-ICT sectors. Like Laura presented before, of course, AI is impacting the creative professional, the creative occupation, and so we are observing, for example, some new job titles like the AI content writer, the AI graphical designer, because, of course, these classical occupations are using AI to do something in a different way or something completely new. And what we did is try to cluster, to aggregate these job titles according to the use of AI skill that they are doing inside their occupation. Because, of course, we are using AI to enable new tasks or doing something different. AI is impacting, like Laura presented, not only the classical task, but also the way that the organization are doing maybe new processes. And what we did is to observe three main family, let me to call it family of organization. The organization that are using AI to build completely new products, new platform, new system. There are organizations that are using AI to improve their processes, to improve their operation, and there are organizations or part of organization, department inside the organization that are using AI to completely enable new processes and to reshape their structure, their job architecture. Let me to start from the first example. Of course, in the organization that are using AI to build new products, there are a lot of ICT occupations, so computer engineers, data scientists, AI engineer, and of course we are observing the robotics. Okay, of course it's something not new inside this cluster of organization. The AI skill are more or less the AI skill used to train new models. The training of a new model is something that the organization are doing, and because they are creating this small language model trained with their data. And of course, when we use AI to train our own model, our small model, we need to think about the implication of sharing our data inside our organization with an external organization. And of course, this is the first part of the shape. The second part of organization are about the enterprise, the corporate that are using organization to enable new processes. Inside these job titles, we are not observing classical ICT roles, but classical non-ICT roles. For example, HR manager or graphic designer, if we observe manager and non-manager roles. Inside this organization, we are observing a lot of demand of generative AI skill, because here there are completely new processes. HR manager are using, for example, AI to suggest skill to the employee, to run a skill assessment in a different way. There are completely new departments inside the organization that are using AI, for example, to try to create a new graphic design, to try to enable a new way to process images. And of course, here there are a lot of implications about the sharing of information of employee and of the organization with this large language model. And in the last part, we have the more classical organization, if we can say classical when we speak about AI, that are using artificial intelligence and machine learning model to improve operation. Inside this use case, we have the improve of productivity, the improve of strategy, the new way to do analysis, because of course, using artificial intelligence, a lot of employees are able now to access to data analysis in a different way, in a more easy way. And of course, what is appearing from the line job posting is that if we observe the 100% of the skill of the online job posting data, only the 1.5% are related to managers. The 50% of the job posting inside this family are for professional and technician. And of course, we need to think about it because the use of artificial intelligence model inside an organization to improve productivity, of course, has some implication about the ethical use of artificial intelligence. Because we need to think about the bias of a model if we don't know how the model is trained. One recent research that was published by the World Employment Confederation revealed that with one model, for example ChatGPT, we were able to do the work of 700 employees in the context of the customer support. So, of course, there are a lot of implications about the use of artificial model inside the productivity subject. So, now I will pass the stage to Cinzia and Véronique.
Yes, thanks very much, Mauro. I think this was really, really interesting, and also I think illustrates somehow what are the changes that are going on within organization. And I think this is a nice way to move to Véronique. I think I have two broad questions for you. First, your daily priority is security in your organization. So I guess artificial intelligence is offering opportunities, but also bringing a lot of challenges, which of course are related to data management, data security. But these challenges are actually affecting also the way the organization works. And this is basically what I would like to ask you to provide insights about. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Véronique, I work for the laboratory Pierre Fabre. Just a few words on the laboratory. We deal with dermocosmetic, with brands like Aven, I hope you know, and oncology research. It's our main activity, and medicine also. We are deploying all over the world in about 40 CEPS, and we distributed our product in 120 countries. And we are quite 10,000 people for the company. And so as for me, I'm not going to speak about the research on AI because I don't make research on AI. I make research on anything else, but I live today AI day by day. And we already see transformation and continuous transformation we have to lead in our group to accompany and to be with AI. Just a few words. You have spoken about the risk. It's the main point we see when we see AI in our business unit, because data are our wealth for the group. So it's not new for us because data were our wealth yesterday. But the acceleration of AI make that we have to train our manager, we have to train our workers to be aware of risk, to distribute, to spread, and to use such AR engine. And so the first point, as for us today, is to train our managers for two reasons. To be aware of risk, to be aware of writing a prompt. It's not so easy that we could have seen. And the third point, we are convinced that the manager role, as you say, Laura, is really changing For example, we deal with industry as far as because we provide our product, and on plants, the manager on assembly line lose value in front of the worker because the worker have, thanks to tools, all the data they need to organize the task, to make better work. So it's very changing for the manager. I'm not useful. I have nothing to make. Yes, you have a quite important task to make. You have to lead teams and to support teams to design a new way of working online and to make that people find sense in their jobs. So it's quite important, but it's quite different than yesterday where they say to one worker, you have to do that, you have to do that. So it's very changing our ways of work. So we need people and we need recruitment with more soft skill and than technical skill, for example, in our plants. That's the first point for training. It's very important. And the second point, in this case, in new project, when we make a new Haven cream, we work on it. Before, you have a business unit in cosmetic and doctor in pharmacy who are able to put in place a new product alone. But nowadays we have to build core team and hybrid core team with IT people, data people, and doctor people to be able to understand what is a digital business process and what is what IT they need, and to be more pertinent and more efficient to build the new product. So I think that for our recruitment nowadays, the skill between an IT people and the business people are more than ever closed, because of course they have to deal with their business. I'm not doctor, but it's more close than ever, and it can afraid some people, because I'm in IT people, and some IT people say, but they don't need us because they know data, they know algorithm, and they know anything like that. So we have to be together comfortable that all skill and all technical skill are necessary, but they have to more be together. And I finish with the risk. I'm the cyber responsible, so I cannot speak about cyber influence and AI. And at the same time, it's not new. Our data are exposed and our brand are exposed, but the acceleration of AI encourage a lot of attacks, a lot of manipulation of data, and so we have to be more and more aware of this, and we have to learn and to train more and more our employees, but also our partner and university, biotech, and also to be aware of this risk, which is very important in our companies.
Thank you very much, Véronique. I think this was really interesting because it's really an exemplification of some of the aspects that we mentioned earlier on. And I take actually your point on the fact that teams are becoming more hybrid, so different competencies. By the way, I have to say that I participate in a lot of events. It's the first time that I sit with 3 engineers. So I'm just, and I can't.
Hopefully you will.
I hope. So this is another example of the fact that we are moving towards a way of working where different competencies, different skills, different backgrounds will have to interact more and more. Sometimes it's difficult because we speak different languages, and this can make people afraid, but I think it's necessary. And it's something that we need to learn. Now, let me move to Romaric. Romaric, yesterday I learned that you have been working on artificial intelligence for more than 20 years. 20 years ago, probably I didn't even know what artificial intelligence was. And we all tend to think that it came out of the blue 2 years ago when we discovered ChatGPT. That's clearly not the case. Maybe you can also give us some example of, based on actual applications of how things have been evolving and the changes that you have observed.
Yeah, thank you very much. Indeed, artificial intelligence is existing for 50 years. But definitely what artificial intelligence is today is not what it was 20 years ago, and what artificial intelligence is today is not what is going to be in 4 years ahead of us. It's evolving very rapidly. So indeed, I did my full career on AI for aerospace, and I won't give you the full details of all the story, but I will point some example that I want to really that for me are really key in terms of revolution of AI. And I think I will link it to the initial introductory talk speaking about industrial revolution. I will speak about a domain where indeed AI has enabled something like an industrial revolution. So it's part of my experience, which is linked to, I was managing at some point the Airbus Defence and Space Data Lab. And I will show there some pictures which are Airbus pictures, but Thales is doing a similar thing, Maxar in the US is doing a similar thing. So globally, the geospatial imagery has completely changed the way thanks to AI, and it's something in some sense comparable to an industrial revolution. Because if we look back, geospatial imagery, so I'm speaking about this kind of image which are taken by satellites. You are quite familiar with this image nowadays by using Google Maps and so on. By the way, the image which are used by Google Maps, some of them are coming from Airbus satellite. So the idea is, okay, the previous business model was mostly a governmental business where governments were asking for, I need an image to do a specific task, and they were requesting an image, and then you had photo interpreters who were looking at the image to extract the information to answer the request. It was a pull model, and in fact AI has dramatically changed the approach to move to a push model. So the idea nowadays is satellites are acquiring continuously massive amount of space imagery, and then you have AI which is used to extract information from this image and to serve. I put there a list of sectors, but there is an endless list of sectors which are benefiting from insight from space imagery. And so what I want to speak, linked to the talk today, is the job of the photo interpreter. So definitely the job of the photo interpreter has completely changed. So extracting information in image is a task where AI has achieved, it was said, superhuman performance long ago. Like more than 10 years ago, we achieved superhuman performance with AI on extraction of information in imagery. But somehow we can debate this superhuman, it's kind of similar performance. But what is completely different is the ability of AI to scale. Because if you think about a photo interpreter and you want, for example, on this harbor to count the number of boats in this harbor, so the photo interpreter will do it, the AI will do it, the result will be similar. But what the AI can do is that it can do it on the Monday, on the Tuesday, on the Thursday, every hours, if you want. So you can really build analytics on what is the evolution of the number of boats in the harbor, which was something which was not possible with only photo interpreter or very costly. Also, you can say what are the number of harbor in France, for example. There is no way a human can scale to a very big area. AI can do. After, I have to say, it has an environmental footprint. So AI can endlessly scale, but also with a limit in terms of energy consumption associated to that. So really the task of extracting information, it's no more the human doing it. But the human and the photo interpreter has a lot of, they shifted their task to other very added value tasks. Linked to this process and linked to other process, linked to this process, AI is not magic. If you don't have training data to detect boats, so if you don't build a set of images where you have highlighted, so humans have highlighted boats in images, so building the training data set is really the key task of the photo interpreter now. And it's also something which is continuously evolving because you have new kinds of boats. You also want to detect what kind of boat it is. So there is a shift of task in terms of really being the one doing the labeling process and doing really good quality labeling because this is what will make the result efficient. Also, there is a shift of task in terms of checking that the AI is doing the right things. So really controlling what the AI is doing, controlling the level of quality to detect that indeed there are new type of boats which are not well detected, so that there is a need to put new labels. So globally, what I want to say is, in terms of employment, the number of photo interpreter has somehow increased because the market has just blown up. Their tasks are not the same. Also, if you look at a macro level, for sure, not looking, you were speaking about the system level, there are completely new business models which have been invented with really new organization, new role. So just to speak about the people developing the AI algorithm, for sure they were not there at the beginning. So there is really today, I think it was point in your study, there was this kind of remote sensing technicians, which was the second higher class in your survey. So definitely remote sensing technicians, they were called like this in your presentation, are a class of which is very high in the demand and very linked to AI. So yeah, I hope I'm giving here a good example of something that has really completely changed thanks to AI, with ultimately a positive evolution both on what we can do today with geospatial imagery, but also in terms of employment, which has globally very positive for this market, I would say.
Thank you very much. Indeed, this was a very concrete example because very often when we speak about all these changes, everything looks very abstract. Actually, it's not abstract, it's very real, and I think this helps to see the changes. We have a little bit of time for questions. Anyone who would like to raise questions, issues to our speakers? There's one question here.
So thank you very much. I have a question for Véronique. As you were saying that now you are having some mixed teams with different background and skills to deal with the opportunity of developing your products. My question is, in your company, since these people have different way of speaking and communicating, how do we ensure that they are actually able to understand each other's needs? Because that's a challenging task. How are you dealing with that in your company?
Yeah, it's a good question because it's a deal. It's a big deal. We have to put in place skill and training to people be able to understand each other. So the best way we find to make it is innovating and as you say, support innovation and brainstorming ideas around post-it and so on, and to understand each other between IT people who are so much technical and business people who don't care about data security and so on. So we deal with it, but we are learning with people to what is the best way to succeed in so much core team and hybrid team. It's a huge subject. I have not simple and easy response to make on it.
Do we have other questions? Yes, maybe Laura. Yes, you have a question.
Thank you. I have a question for Romaric about photo interpreters. That's why I was taking my notebook and writing down everything you said. I think it's such an interesting example because I can also imagine thinking about the job quality before these photo interpreters had the same task over and over again, always counting the boats on the picture. And you mentioned now that they have at least 2 different tasks, labeling the images and checking the AI result. So I have a few questions about that. Like, is that just the 2 tasks that their job now consists of, or is there more? And second, is it the same people that were photo interpreters before the algorithm and now, or is it the same people that kept this job title, or did you keep the job title but put new people in? And if it's the same people, did they have to get some training, some new skills to do this?
So some people have indeed are the same. Some are the same because, in fact, especially I have to mention that the defense is also one of the big customers. So you need to have people who are knowledgeable about doing the right labeling for defense topic. So it's something which requires indeed quite a high level of expertise on the topic. So for many applications, they were able to really utilize their expertise in another way. After, I have to say, the topic of space imagery is quite specific. You have also, and I think some of you may be aware, I mean, we have the topic of labeling is also something that can be outsourced. Also with some ethical concern associated to that, because usually also sometimes this task of labeling, they are outsourced to countries where you get a really low salary, and this came in the press, especially quite recently linked to generative AI and so on. So the question is the level of skills which are required to do a proper labeling. It happens that for space imagery, it's quite critical to make sure we detect the right thing. So we keep it as something which is a quite added value task for which we keep expertise mostly internally to do this task. And maybe if you look on other imagery business, people would, I mean, this labeling task is largely outsourced. And third parties are trying to making that more ethical, but it's a topic. Then after you were asking whether they are doing completely new tasks. It's indeed true. I mean, I put a lot of a long list of verticals which are addressed. So in fact, they were able to really go in a much wider scope in terms of verticals because just having much more capacity. So coming to the point Véronique was making, you need to have a knowledge about subject matter expertise to know, I mean, if you are building an object detectors for crop, you need to have some agriculture knowledge somehow to know exactly what to do and so on. So they were able to diversify their knowledge so to address a wider range of verticals. And also they were working much more in partnership mode because rather than being in this pull mode, the idea is also what can I do? I mean, they have been really part of the process to find new market. In a sense, what can we offer as new capacity? So I will take one example, which is one product which is called Starling. Starling is counting oil palms because to avoid deforestation. So the idea is to make sure that for Ferrero, for Nestlé, for this big corporate, that they are not contributing to deforestation. So they are buying a service which is where we are helping them to demonstrate that if they have oil coming from a specific area, that this is coming from an area which has not created deforestation. I mean, this kind of ideas, they really came from people who were able to do photo interpretation in a way and they were involved in the process of, finding new areas where there could be some business. So I think on your topic of being more creative, it's also true that they have been really involved in this creative process.
Sorry, Cinzia. Yes, only one topic. Yes, what we are also observing from our launch of posting is what the roles is not an ICT role. There are the AI skill combined with the domain-specific skill. So the domain knowledge is always mentioned inside the job posting of the employer because, of course, to label correctly an image in the oncology sector, in the defense sector, you need to know what we are doing.
Our director calls it the bilinguals. So these are the ones who are in demand. So you need to combine the actually AI knowledge with the domain knowledge.
We have questions here.
Hi. So my question is for Mr. Pelucci. So you were talking about how in companies nowadays a lot of different jobs or different careers are using AI in certain companies, and I would love to know your opinion on the data security or data leaks in terms of what employees might accidentally leak or without really realizing that they're leaking to AI and the protection behind that and our data. It's something that our company is working on, but I would love to know your opinion on it. Thank you.
Yes, so thank you for the question. So, of course, so like I also mentioned, when we are observing this AI skill inside the job posting data, there are always present other skills. So not only the artificial intelligence skill, but also skill related to the domain, soft skill, and in particular what we are observing inside some sector, for example, the logistics sector, the HR sector, is the presence of skills about the information privacy and the knowledge about the classical regulation, for example, the GDPR, that is quite famous in Europe. Because, of course, like also Véronique underlined very well, there are a lot of new processes about the L&D, so the learning and development inside, in this case, the organization. Because, of course, a lot of employees, they are using now ChatGPT. A lot of students, I'm also a teacher in university, and a lot of my students are using ChatGPT to code and so on, but there are no idea about the implication. Let me only to mention one case. Inside the ICT sector, there are a bunch of tools for the code suggestion or code writing. So there are tools like Copilot, only to mention the most famous, that is able to help software developer to write code. But there are no idea about the implication then about this new code. For example, who then knows how Copilot will use our own code? There are no idea from the employee about the implication, about the ownership of the code that are writing, also about patent and so on. So there are a lot of new subjects, and of course, so like also Laura presented, maybe there are a lot of implications about the productivity, but also maybe the creation of a new job type, a new job role that are helping organization to this moving to be an AI-ready company.
I can add just a few words. As for us in Pierre Fabre, we put in place a dedicated tenant ChatGPT to be able to test and learn with our own data and not spread our data out of the group. And we choose some business process, and we see how it can transform the data and so on. So it makes people learn to use it. That's the first point. And you were speaking about Copilot. We put in place a Copilot in our company, our tenant 0365, and it was a huge security subject because it's a subject of duty and right for the data. It's very hard. People be conscious that the rights they give to the data is really important. As for us, we had at the beginning of Copilot around 1,000 or 2,000 teams, public teams in our tenant, and it was real blocked to put in place Copilot because we know that Copilot is able to go to every teams he had in the tenant. So before to deploy Copilot, we began by put public teams in private teams, and it was a huge transformation in our group because people are prefer to open all the data. So it's really change and culture change in the company, and it's not also IT people and security people who are able to deal with this type of subject.
There was another question, Pierre-Alex.
No, thank you so much. I mean, it was just so enlightening, and I was very lucky also to have conversation with you yesterday night, this morning. I think you brought some insight that were very thought-provoking, and that's something we don't usually hear in a conversation on AI in the future of work. A lot of puzzles, no? Labor shortage and fear of employment loss, the need of bilinguals, all this conversation I think is super important. The fact that indeed some jobs we thought would get automated actually don't get automated, and we have to think about more complexity, interdependencies. I think it was really fascinating. So thank you so much for that. My specific question is, within each of your organization or in the data, what do you see as the major blocker of AI adoption? Because if you talk to any company in the world now is like, okay, we have to adopt AI massively, whether it's for like process streamlining or to create new products, but we have to adapt or to stay relevant. In the case of aerospace, in the case of pharma, I mean everywhere. But the adoption seems somehow kind of slow. So what are the typical blockers that you identify in your organization?
So I would so as ANITI, I would answer more with my past experience on the Airbus hat. So the main blockers, it depends on the process. I mean, for example, the case I mentioned, there was not so much blockers, because in fact it was very painful for humans to count boats on the Monday, on the Tuesday, on the we were answering pain points from the users. So on this specific case, it went very well, and there has been a very good adoption of AI. But it's not the general cases. So we have other example when you want, for example, to use AI to do planning for plants, to allocate tasks to workers. It's a topic we work inside ANITI together with Airbus. On the technology side, we are very ahead. We can do great stuff, but the acceptability for a worker to have an AI algorithm telling you should do this is not good at the moment. So, for example, I would say, here I take my ANITI hat, we are working on trustworthy AI, which for us is the way to foster adoption. On the specific topic of planning, we work on explainability of planning. So the idea is that the worker can ask why I'm the one doing the task and not another one. Also, you can ask, you can start to have a dialogue with the machine to understand why the decision was taken. and it's one aspect, at least, which will help AI adoption, and it's one of the main topics we work on in ANITI.
Thanks a lot, Mauro.
Yes, so of course artificial intelligence is not here since 4 years, but if we think, for example, to Google Maps is here, I think, since 20 years ago. And so this morning I trusted Google Maps to be here because I left my hotel, I put on Google Maps the address, and I was here on time. So, of course, companies are, let me to say, more slow to adopt something that in our usual life we use every day, like a Google Maps, only to mention something. So one of the topics is, of course, the credibility, like Romain underlined, because in some cases AI models are not so perfect, and there are a lot, what we are observing in the data, there are a lot of new skills that are appearing related to AI, in particular to the explainability of the model. So completely new branch of artificial intelligence that, let me to say, use AI to try to explain how the AI model is working, because one of the first topics is try to, let me to say, suggest the AI tool like not a replacement about our usual work, but a sort of a virtual assistant that can help the employee to be more productive. This is, let me to say, something that we are observing in the data. One of the big topics is about the data ownership, because of course organizations maybe are a little more slow to apply this model, because they don't know if the data will remain inside the organization or outside, like also we presented a few minutes ago.
As for me, it's where the fear that can block our exploitation of AI. One example, we use AI engine to analyze comments on social network to be aware of brand image. And it's very difficult to imagine what the AI engine can answer, and not to be sure that we have all the impact and all the answer she is going to make. So it's really a fear. And so we develop a lot of 360 tower to see worldwide, and whatever the network, what we can speak and what we can find about Pierre Fabre Group, not only for the image, but we deal with medicament and medicine and patient data. So before it was a little bit easy to protect those data, but nowadays we can perhaps find some data such as medicine data, and it's really forbidden to have medicine data distributed by the group. So it's fear for fees, and so the fear, it's main blocked for us. And before I was only scruting a dark web to see if there is bad data on Pierre Fabre Group, and I have the habit to buy some data on that web to see what our data is spreading on it. But nowadays I have to go not only to the dark web, but everywhere I can, and we make a lot of invents to be able to have the 360 tower to see it.
Thanks a lot. Do we have the time for, there is a last question maybe?
So yes, before coffee break,
yep.
One last question, if possible, yes. Yeah.
Thank you. I have a question for Romaric. You talk about the difficulty for adoption of AI management for the workers. I would like to know if they are involved in the process, in the training of the AI, and are they giving their insights to improve the decision making? And is it are there a flexibility? Like you said, they can talk with the GAI assistant. Can they make it modify their plans if there are an issue? For example, they can't make this specific task. Can they ask the assistant to modify the planning?
Yeah, all of that is part of research. I mean, maybe I should start from the beginning. I think Jan will speak about it when he will speak. But yeah, it's not a technical problem, and there is a lot of change management to perform. And indeed, if you don't start with your user, if you don't onboard the people, if you don't know what are their pain points, and if you come only with a very nice technology solution, but which is not answering their pain point, I mean, it's not only, I mean, what I will say is true for other topics than AI, but it's really, I mean, the attempt to be quite in a techno-push mode with AI is very, very strong. It comes from top down, everyone wants to have something with AI, so there is a challenge that you start like you should do with any other technology. What are the pain points? Making sure you're answering these pain points. And so that's the first topic, and it's about making sure you do the things right and doing the change management. After, there is a specific topic in terms of man-machine teaming, or EASA is calling it human AI teaming. So the idea is how to build a virtuous loop between the AI and the human. And indeed, that you can really have a kind of a natural interaction where the humans can take some of the results from the AI system, but also comment this result in a sense to say, yeah, what you did is good, but I would have added this, I would have done it in a bit different way. You didn't take these constraints well into account, and that you have something which is a continuous learning phase between the human and the AI. Some of that is more research, I have to say, because on this topic we work inside ANITI. Or you can have this aspect, especially we work on this topic for cobotic. Or you can have interaction with natural language on grounding. So grounding is this aspect that you will really understand well the different concepts which are conveyed in natural language, and that you will link that to, for example, motion planning or planning for the robot. So these topics are indeed something which are topic for research, and definitely this human-machine teaming aspect is something on which we have to do more on that to improve adoption as well.
Maybe you should work with education science people, because I think, as a synthesis, if I may, what I'm very happy to with what you all said this morning, because as a teacher, I was very worried about my future and the future of my work. And you just explained and demonstrated that this will be exactly the contrary. The future, there is a future for the teachers and for teaching, but we will have to learn how to teach and train AIs. And probably many professionals will have to become themselves some kind of teachers of their own artificial intelligences. So, well, I think it's a very good point. Maybe that's a very good news for me, at least.
Okay, I think this was really a learning experience. Speaking of learning, I definitely learned a lot, and I'm sure I'm not alone. Many thanks to Romaric, Mauro and Véronique for sharing in such an open way the way you are looking at artificial intelligence and how your organizations are taking it into the future. So with this, please join me for a round of applause for the speakers. Thank you very much.